Starting our session. Now, as you can see, we are almost to the end of this training program. We have started with structure training, then BVS, then we went to ERP, and finally we are coming to estimation. Now, why was estimation kept to the last? It is simply because your syllabus was covering it in the last year. So we thought of delaying it until you get a glimpse of what actual manual estimation is. Now, I don't think it has already been taught to you. Can you please confirm if estimation was already taught to you, or is it yet to be started? Can anyone of you? Nia? Nia? Am I audible?
No.
Okay, so estimation was not taught to you. Uh, I'll just give a glimpse of what it is, and then we'll start with the sessions in reality. Okay, now today will be completely based on the introduction part of estimation, and from next session onwards, we'll start the practice of the same. I'll share my screen. Just let me know if it's visible. Is my screen visible? Okay. Now, when we consider a project, we'll start with the architecture plan, then we go for the structure design, then we do the BEBS, and later we went for the planning of the project, how to start, where to start, and how to keep the project running. Now, what we missed out is the estimation part. Now, what does estimation means? In simple words, is a technique used for finding quantities and the expected expenses you require you would go through in order to complete the work, or simply we can call it as the budgeting. Like we have budgets for government budgets, we plan budgets for occasions and functions. Similarly, for a building we have a budget. Now, I'll give an example. If I have 1.5 crores with me, I can go for a 5,000 square feet residential building. At the same time, if my budget is lower or equal to 50 lakhs, then I will have to cut down the area of my building so that I can use the amount to complete my building. Rather than having just a structure, I'll be able to complete the entire building with that budget. So the budget is what that controls the size of the project. So every project will have a budget so that the work is completed properly. Have you noticed while traveling that some buildings will be left abandoned for years? So the skeleton of that building will stay like a deserted ghost for years. Now, these occur mainly because either they will be short of budget, or if they have violated any rules while construction of the building, the code might have stopped them from proceeding the construction. So these two are the main governing reasons these days. Now, as we see on a daily scenario, the price of each commodity is rising on a daily basis. So a proper planning could help us complete a project rather than delaying it. If you're completing a project within 6 months, the expected rate will match your budget. Otherwise, if you're lagging that project by another 6 months, what happens is that inflation will take into action, and slowly the budget of the project will start increasing based on the inflation. Now, that is why we were doing planning. And what is the major use of estimation? Uh, as I mentioned earlier, estimation decides the area of project. It not only decides the area of project, it also decides the material and the structure of the project. Now, assume that I have kept aside 10 lakhs for the foundation of the building. Now, Suppose after the structure design and estimation, calculation of the amount required for doing that particular estimation means calculating the amount required to complete that particular work. So assume that after doing the structure design, my budget for the foundation has exceeded to 15 lakhs. Then what I have to do is that I have to plan or restructure my building such that the foundation can be redesigned and the budget will come down to 10 lakhs. Otherwise, what happens is that I won't be able to complete that particular construction. So budgeting is the main aim of estimation so that you can build your dream project. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it connects quantity as well as expenses. Both you have to check and adjust. Sometimes we might not be able to cut down the structure, but we might be able to replace the material. So if we can replace granite with an alternative tile, we might be able to save the amount of money. Similarly, you can replace materials so that the quality cannot be compromised and the same work can be completed. You can find such alternatives and replace. For an example, if you are using brickwork for all internal walls, then the load will be twice the brick load when we are using a lightweight brick instead of this one. We can cut down the total weight of the structure and thereby we can even cut down the foundation requirement. So such planning has to be done in relation to the estimation of that particular building. Now, estimation is determining the material, and money required for completing a project. Material can be machines and raw materials like cement, aggregates, and all these. And men, you can include all types of labor force, including the engineers, labor force, and others working on the project. And money, it has no more, it does not require another description. Now, estimation is mainly connecting and managing or planning wisely the use of these three M's. That is men, material, and money. Now, usually we do an estimation at the beginning of a project and it's called the preliminary estimate. There are various types of estimation. I won't be going to that detail. You will be learning that during your regular classes. Now, the preliminary estimate is used to determine whether the budget is in check. Are we exceeding the budget? Then we'll be checking the structure and its requirements, and we'll try to alternate the material so that the budget as well as the strength is not compromised. Now, is it only done at the beginning of a project? I would say it is a no, because we might have to revise a project at every stage, including its estimation and planning. But comparing to planning, we revise estimation very less, because estimation is almost 95% complete at the beginning itself. If there is a slight architecture change, or if you're trying to change the function of the building, only then the estimate will be updated. Whereas planning, you might have to update it every day or every hour so that you can coordinate the work and complete it on time. Now, that's about the basics of estimation. Now, estimation has two main components. You can call it parts also. First part is being estimation of quantity. Excuse me. Now, the first part is estimation of quantity. Now, before moving to this one, I'll just go to the next part also. And the second part is rate analysis. Now, for that, I'll just give you a glimpse of an estimate. Now, on screen, you can see a sample estimate of a project. Now, here you can see there is unit, quantity, rate, and total. This is a 4 governing factors. That is, there must be a unit, the quantity of material for completing that work, a rate for completing that particular work based on the unit. and the total amount. I'll just take a simple example. We'll go for the beam. Now for concreting a M25 grade beam in ground floor, the total quantity of concrete required is 7.2 m cube as per this estimate. Now I don't remember the exact area of this project, so I can't just relate it. You can just imagine that there is a building to be constructed, and it's a residential building. And for this particular building, they are required to concrete 7.2 m cube of uh, beam. And the cost for completing that particular work, that is including the reinforcement cage preparation, shuttering, and even pouring of concrete and curing it, requires an amount of 15,270. Now this estimate has been prepared a year back, so the rate might not be the same currently. Now the total amount is depending on the quantity of material as well as the rate for 1 unit of that work. Now m cube is a unit used here. That means in order to do 1 m cube of concrete, I'll have an expense of this, and the total quantity of concrete that is required for casting beams at site is 7.2. So we are multiplying both to get the total cost. This is a basic working principle behind estimation. I will come back to our estimation part. Why is unit so important that is given in this? Because based on the unit, the quantity will change. If it's cubic feet instead of m cube, we'll have to do the conversions over here for the quantity. And for the rate for 1 cubic feet and 1 m cube is entirely different. And you will have to change the same over here. So the unit is the governing factor that controls both the value of quantity as well as the rate. So whenever you do an estimation, you should pay attention that which unit you are working with. Now we'll continue with our presentation. Now here, as I mentioned earlier, you will have to find the quantity as well as the rate in order to get the total amount to be spent in order to complete a work. So both estimate of quantity and estimate of rate is relevant to complete a project estimation. Now, coming to the quantity part, you have 1 dimension, 2 dimension, and 3 dimension. 1 dimension means linear quantities. For an example, you can take the case of RCC pile, the foundation element pile. Now, for the piles, usually you think that the volume of pile is the amount to be determined in order to get the estimate of total quantity of pile to be poured and cast in the site. But in reality, the pile contractors, they do not mention the volume of concrete. Instead, they would mention the length or depth of the excavation done in order to cast the pile. This is because you are excavating into earth, and it is likely that there might be a change in the diameter when you excavate due to the side walls getting collapsed, or there might be a stone encountered while you are driving in the boring the pile. All these can lead to a change in the volume of required. So the only certain quantity that they can use in order to get the quantity of work done measured. Just imagine that all structures casted above ground can be visually seen and measured after construction, so that you can calculate the consumed quantity exactly. But in the case of pile, it is below earth. You can't see what is done underneath or what amount of concrete has went inside the earth in order to cast that particular pile. Only thing you can do is that you can measure the depth, proper depth. How to measure the depth for a pile? They are using some pipes of standard length to drive in the borehole. And this length will be counted based on the number of pipes they are inserting, and based on that length, they will be giving the quantity of concrete used and corresponding amount. So, for an example, a 50 centimeter dia pile cast on site usually has a rate of 4,000 rupees, including material and labor. Okay, now when it changes in diameter and depth, there will be change in amount. So it is, and in that case, they will be mentioning if it's a 50 diapile, this is the rate. If it is a 60 diapile, this will be the rate. They'll be having an internal calculation, but what the rate they are giving out will be in terms of running meter or the depth of the pile. Now coming to the two dimension. So similarly, we have other materials which are purchased or estimated in terms of length. For example, steel is estimated based on the weight of the material, not the uh, not the size of the element or something, or even the length. It is actually estimated based on the weight of the steel required. And when we go for purchasing, the unit is length, or length of number of full length bar required. So it is completely different. First thing you have to crack is that which unit you are dealing with, or is it the volume or the weight or the length are you have to calculate, so that you can understand what is the amount or rate related to it required. For example, when we go for two-dimension estimation, it is mostly area enclosed by a polygon. An example for that is the plastering work done for a building. The painting works, finishing works, flooring works, all these are the rate for the same is given in terms of area. So we'll say the total square feet area, square feet rate for flooring is so and so. Square feet area rate for plastering. The square meter rate for plastering is 500. You can give the rate based on the rate is usually mentioned by the contractor who's executing work as in terms of area in that cases. And when we come to RC elements, we are going for the volume. Like for slab, beams, lintel, and other RCC elements, usually the volume is referred. Only an exception for this is the pile, where you mention the running meter or the depth of the pile. Now, so the basic key of a proper estimation is that you'll have to identify which dimension you are dealing with, which quantity or volume or area or length, which is the quantity you will have to determine, so that the rate can be multiplied and you'll get the total amount. And similarly, I have mentioned earlier, based on identifying the dimension, you will have to identify the rate for that work. Rate is not simply just amount required for purchasing a material. If you're considering rate analysis for an RC work, it will include the material cost, cost for machinery, cost for labor, then curing, shuttering, all these are included in the total rate for RCC construction. As we have seen earlier, in the case of beam, the total amount quoted was 15,000 and something. That 15,000 was arrived by considering the material cost, labor required for doing the shuttering, rebar work, shuttering as well as concreting. Rebar work is exempted because it's calculated separately. The total rate is not just merely the cost of items. So whenever you are finding the rate of a particular work, you will have to concentrate on what is the material used, labor, and machinery required for supporting. And you will have to find the extent duration to which that labor will be required. So for some concretings, based on the volume, you might finish it in 1 day. Sometimes it requires more than 1 day. So that is the man days to be counted, so that you can complete that work. Now, for quantity, it is basically mathematics. You'll have to find the volume, weight, length, and all these using mathematical formulas, which you learn in your earlier schooling time. And for rate analysis, is completely different thing. And this is like a difficult topic to handle. You'll have to know how many labor, how many mason is required to complete that particular work, how many helpers required, how many hours they will work in order to complete that work. All these knowledge is required. And generally for a fresher, it is difficult to have such knowledge. So we have references which you can use in order to find the rate analysis for your particular work. Now, as I mentioned, this is just a reference, not the exact thing. You will have to relate it with your work and get the actual rate analysis from it. So, for example, brickwork using lightweight bricks might not be covered in this particular reference. You will have to do it by relating it to the rate analysis for normal brickwork. So, you will have to relate the reference over here with your work and material and try to work out the rate analysis for the same. And it is not that easy as we say. It requires years of practice and proper observation of rates of material and the efficiency of labor force and all. You can master it by continuous practice as well as trying to work in more projects. Okay. Now, these references are Delhi analysis of rates and Delhi schedule of rates. Both can be used. Schedule of rates gives the rate of materials, labor. It gives the individual rate. Whereas analysis of rate gives the amount of rate for one m cube or rate for one unit of work to be completed. I'll just show the same so that you can understand what I'm mentioning. Now, we'll take an example from here. There are some basic rates mentioned in this document. Initially, you can see, for example, higher charges of concrete mixer, 0.25 to 0.4 m cube capacity with a hopper for 1 day. The rate is 800. Now, this is a rate as before 2021, January, not January, it is 1st of April 2021. So every a year it is being revised. And I suppose the one for 2022 will also be released. Okay, similarly, you can find the rate for 1 day. But is it the actual quantity you might require for the construction? It will depend on how many hours you require for completing your work. This doesn't mean that this is a total rate for that material. Are you getting me? Like, you can't just say that you would require an exhibition just for 1 day. You might require it for more than 1 day to complete the concrete at site. It depends on the quantity of concreting to be done or other factors like if an unexpected rain occurs and the work gets halted or any other unexpected delay. Like if the concrete mixer gets faulty and it's not working, you might have to cut down, stop the work and resume next day, or you might get a 1 hour delay. All these factors might affect the quantity of that material required. Now we'll just go through a sample rate analysis. You have the rates for laborers also. Bishti Beldar are just masons and coolies. Then you have rate for materials also. These values are used within this document. We'll go for a sample right now. Okay. Now, we are dealing with earthwork. Then you can have, there are numerous samples. You just have to read through what is the title and the material specified and other preferences. And if it matches with our case, only then adopt the same. Or else go for the next one, check with your requirements. And if it matches, only then adopt it and cross check. Is it the same material? Is it the same work done? Now, earthwork is not that complicated as RCC. So we'll just go for a reinforcement cement concrete. Now, providing and laying in position specified grade of reinforcement concrete, and they have given a cement ratio. Now, this means that the grade of concrete is less than M25. And if you want a higher grade concrete, then you'll have to go for the same. You can just browse and find the same, or you can go for search options also. I'll just explain this one and continue. You can see the materials. You the entire thing is calculated based on 1 m cube quantity. Your site might have a being consistion of nearly 7.2 m cube work to be done. So you can find the rate for 1 m cube and multiply it with the rate for with the quantity required to get the total rate. Now you have the material over here, the stone aggregate. Uh, there are 20 mm aggregates used, 10 mm aggregates used. Then the carriage. Carriage means the conveyance or transportation of material charge. Then we have the coarse sand, then carriage for coarse sand. Then we have cement and carriage for the same. All materials need to be transported. So the transportation cost, sometimes it will be incurred in totally, or sometimes you will have to consider it separately. For example, if you're buying marbles from Italy, you'll have to pay an import amount for importing and using it. So that amount will be in addition to the material cost. Then we'll have the labor, mason. Beldar Bishti is just referring to the different people, different types of helpers you doing the work. You can consider them as helpers of different experience. Okay, Beldar has less experience than Bishti because you can see that the rates is different. It's based on the skill they are classified as Beldar and Bishti. Then you have higher charges for concrete mixer, then vibrator, and sunrise means the lump sum amount of rates. Like you will have cover blocks used, you will have binding wires used. All these are lump sum things. You cannot determine it properly. Those quantities are written as sunrise. And there is percentage of water charges added, GST, and contractor profit cess is also added. Since as you can see, Delhi analysis of rates applies for all over India, public works like construction bridges and all government projects are based on Delhi analysis of rates. So they will be governed by the GST, contractor profit and cess and all these values. And these percentages are already prefixed by the government. Okay, now with this, you'll have the quantity. Sample quantities for 1 m cube is given here. This might not be the same requirement as for you. If you're using M25 concrete, there will be a design mix already given by the corresponding cement manufacturer. You can get it done based on the material in your site, the cement aggregates, get a sample from the same and get the cube test done. From the results, you'll get the quantity for 1 m cube. Use the same, do not follow this blindly. You can refer for the labor work from this one and higher charges in the rest. But for the materials, go for your exact mix design. And from that, you can calculate the rate. Now, rate is already given here. You can calculate the amount and amount for 1 m cube. So this is the main reason why, like when mix design is changing, the quantity will change and the total rate will change. Now for this one, this mix, it's 8,300 given here. And for the next mix, it is 8,180. It will keep changing based on the quantity and the material. Now, if you're skipping 20 mm aggregates and using only 10 mm aggregates, still the quantity will change and the rate will also change. And if you're using a different type of sand, the amount will change. So rate analysis is a complex process, but you can master it by practicing it. And now that is about the basics of estimation. Once you hear all these concepts, you feel that estimation is a really tough procedure. Yes, it's true that estimation is a tough thing to be done and it requires a lot of mastering. Like you will have to learn how to work out the quantities. You will have to understand what it is to find the rate of materials, how to link it with the quantity, how to link it, get the exact amount. All these require practice and proper mastering, but still you can try to work it out based on previous data. You are not the first person to do estimation, so you will have a backup from your seniors or seniors in your field. So you can use their help and get you involved if you're interested in estimation. Now, all these things, when we are doing it manually, it requires a lot of time, attention, and we might even make a lot of error while calculating quantity, calculating the rate analysis. All these are subjected to errors. So when we do a manual estimation, the likely error is 20% or more based on the quality and experience of the engineer performing the estimation. Now, how can we resolve this issue? And based on that, we try people start trying doing estimation using excels and other software, so that you can cut down the human error in calculating the quantity and rates and produce an estimate within a shorter period of time. If you're going for an estimation manually, based on experienced engineers, they say it takes a minimum of 3 to 7 days based on the size of project. Usually, a residential building and all you can do for within a week, and if it's a multi-story apartment and all, you might take more than a week based on the complexity and shape of the building. Now, in order to simplify this, people started to depend on softwares and other methods like approximation. And based on this, we have different types of estimation also. Now, here in Ascenda, what we practice is we depend on a software to do the estimation so that we can cut down the error. And it has become easy for us to monitor if we have made a mistake. When we do it manually or write down the estimation manually, what happens is that the person who is checking has to read all these documents, calculate the same. Whereas in our software, Estimax, we just have to cross check it within the software itself. So it has become much more easier so that we can do the estimation as well as checking within the software in a time period of nearly 1/3 are required for an actual project, or even lesser than that, depending on the size of the project. I'll give an example. If you're doing a 1,000 square feet project, the expected time for completing the estimation using Estimax is less than 30 minutes. I did mention earlier that experts in this field do manual estimation within, or manual or partially aided with partially aided estimation within 3 days. But right now, I did say that we can do an estimation of a 1,000 square feet residential building within half an hour. How can we achieve such speed with accuracy in a limited time? The only answer is that we have connected our AutoCAD drafting with AI, so that the AI will be doing the quantity collection from the drawing, and it will calculate the quantities and return the results. All we have to do is that we have to check if the entry is done properly. So only that checking is required. You can totally rely on the output if the entry is proper. So checking has been simplified, and data collection is in a blink of an eye. You can just do it in scanning of a building can be done in whatever be the area of the building. You can scan it within 5 minutes, and the data or corresponding quantity calculation will be done faster than that. Okay. Now, as I said, the data is being collected from an AutoCAD file. So the AutoCAD file with proper drafting is required in order to get the estimate out on time. If the drafting is faulty, if you don't have an AutoCAD file, you might have to draft the same, correct the errors, and get it done properly. But the estimation part will only take 30 minutes for almost a single story building, foundation, and the headroom. All these three included, you will just take maximum of 30 minutes. If you have a minimum of, if you have tried Estimax before, and if you're totally new to it, you might take more time in order to learn it better. Now, in the following sessions, we will be learning to draft properly so that you can get the right quantities. And secondly, you will be learning to scan the drawing in order to get the correct quantity from the drawing. You won't be collecting the center line length or values from the drawing manually. The software will do it for you. Now, this is the two parts we are handling in our estimation, and only some minute quantities you might have to take manual estimation. That is in the case of foundation elements like raft slab, pile cap, and all these. These are uncertain quantities. Even that too, you can take the quantity estimation through the software if you do a proper drafting for the same. Just like for BBS, we combined the results of beam, slab, and all to get the quantity of T beams. Similarly, you can do a combination in order to get the result. It might be a bit tedious or confusing if you are not experienced with the software. So we'll learn about how to draft the drawing properly so that Estimax can get the data correctly. We'll learn the parameters to be set in Estimax so that the quantity calculation is correct. Thirdly, you will learn to relate the rate analysis with the estimation. And finally, you will also learn how to create the equation so that in case a new work is being done and its estimation or similar pattern or template has not been created earlier, then you will have to create a template on your own to get the estimation done. That will also be taught to you. This is the portion you'll be covering during the uh, session. Okay. Now, with estimation, we'll be coming to the end of our training for this batch of exposure. So I expect you to start working on your assignments and get ready so that when the submission date is assigned, you will have a completely error-free file to be submitted. I won't allow errors coming into your file unless you have submitted twice or thrice and still finding it difficult to get resolved. Okay. Now, if you have any doubts regarding the estimation part, what which I have been discussing with you, you can ask now. Or if you have any queries related to your future training, you can ask the same. I know estimation is a little bit difficult to understand when we say a lot about it. You'll just see how simple it can be. It can be while doing estimation using Estimax. And the best part of Estimax is that you don't have to prepare your own rate analysis. We have templates in which the rate analysis is already prepared and kept. You just have to use the same. Have to select the same, and you can get the values from that. So rate analysis is simplified in Estimax. Only thing is that you have to do the drafting properly to get the quantities. So that is another main reason why we can do estimation a short duration, because we have prefix templates that will help you to do the estimation fastly. Is there anything you want to ask me? Any doubts? You may also recommend for a revisit of topics. You can get additional sessions on the portion already covered. You be it on ERP or BBS, you can ask for a second session for doubt clearance for the same. If you want, we'll have the same after estimation sessions. Okay, so that you won't be confused while preparing your assignments. I'll give one more minute so that you can think of your doubts and ask the same.